Alright, welcome back to the channel, everybody. We're kind of working on a resizing die this episode and going to try and figure out what's the right way and what's the wrong way to do this. I've seen a few different things. So if you're new to the channel, we're talking about this Hornady AP. We're trying to put the whole thing together and make some bullets. But I think that for me, what I found was I couldn't find a whole lot of videos online, and so I wanted to kind of make some videos and show how to set this thing up and actually do something with it. So the next step is a flaring die, and so this is what a flaring die looks like. Let me turn it around so I can actually see. That's what a flaring die looks like. For whatever it's worth, Lee actually makes what's called a powder through die. So if you wanted to, you could actually set up your powder thrower and throw powder right through that. We're not going to do that. But again, so you're going to have a bushing for this particular press. So when you get your die started down inside there, and again, like I said, this shouldn't take very long to get this thing set up. I'm going to get it just down snug and put that into the press itself. All right. And so to go through the steps, I have a once fired piece of brass, still got a primer in it, and what we're going to do is put it in that first stage. So I'm going to run that up, I'm going to deprime it, all right, and whenever it drops down, it's automatically going to push over. I'm going to go ahead and put a new primer in it by pushing forward on that lever. And so the next step is I'm going to go up, and I'm hoping that I can actually get that thing to flare the end of it. Now, I didn't feel any resistance, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the die down until I can start to feel it touching, right, which is about right there. I'm going to pull this thing back down just a little bit, and then I'm going to reset that same piece of brass, and I'm going to take this down just a little bit more. And so it should go up, you should feel it come out of that. And so now if we take this piece of brass, it still doesn't look like it has a whole lot of flare to it. And what you're looking for is if you take a bullet and you try to put it in there, that it'll actually hold that bullet. So I guess that's good enough, right? So once you resize it, that bullet isn't going to sit in that. And if you don't flare these things enough, what happens is it will chew up the case whenever you try to put a bullet in it. So I have an example of that. This is a 40 Smith & Wesson, but this is one that I did a while back, and from this side it looks perfectly normal. Hopefully you guys can see that. But on the other side, maybe you can see that, maybe you can't, the bullet just pushed the brass right down. And if you try to chamber that round, it's not going to go into the chamber very well. And so this is on my wall of shame, things that I've screwed up in the past. And so what I want to do is I just want to flare that just enough to where that bullet, like I said, will sit in there without falling out, right? And so it's got a new primer in it from our automatic priming system. So we'll put that back in the series here in just a minute. But I've also seen people flare them so much that they start to look kind of like a trumpet on the top. And let's hope that that focuses enough to where you can actually see that. But you can see where it's starting to like flare out at the top really, really bad. And not that it's going to cause a ginormous problem, but look what happens to that bullet. I don't know if you can see that or not, but that bullet will just push right in there. And I don't want it to go in that far. I just barely want it to sit on the surface, and that's too much. So see if we can get that up in there where you can actually see it, but see, it'll go in there a really long ways, and I don't want it to do that. So I over-flared this one on purpose just to kind of show you. And so the outside diameter of the case, see if I can get this up here where you guys can see it. The outside diameter of the case at the bottom, it's a tapered case, it says 40, right? So if I go up here to the top and do the same thing, it still says 40. Well, 9mm is a tapered case, right? And so this one at the bottom is just a hair under 40, and at the top it's like 37. So you know, you just want enough of a flare there to where you can get the bullet to kind of just sit in the top of it, and that's it. And if you go much farther than that, then you can cause yourself some problems. So the next thing that we really kind of need to jump into is reloading data. And I don't really want to spend a whole bunch of time on that, but I'm going to reset the camera towards the bench just a little bit, and I'm going to get the Lee book out and kind of show you what we're going to do for 9mm, And then I'm going to show you what I do personally for every round that I reload. All right, so this is the Lee reloading book. I'd recommend anybody that is going to reload to get one of these reloading books. You can find data online, but it's not as good as actually having the book. You can go through a lot of different kinds of stuff. And so I'm going to show you some problems that you can run into. For me, what we're using is a berry bullet, and I'm not sponsored by berries by any means, but I do think it's a good price for what you get. And it's great for plinking, you know what I'm saying? So, and you can actually go shoot quite a bit of these at a fairly reasonable price. But I'm also going to use tight group as a powder. And so I'm going to show you in the book what happens whenever you try to look up 9mm with a copper plated round nose and no reloading data. All right, so I have tabs on mine, as you can see. So I'm going to run out here to 9mm Luger, which is what we're trying to reload. And so it gives you some information here, and really what's really important here is all of these little measurements that you get here. And I'm trying to get this camera where it'll actually look at the right thing. But it gives you all the dimensions of the bullet and what the bullet should look like. And so it's giving you a case overall length, which is COL. And so that's really important too, but it also depends on the size bullet that you're going to use. All right, and so let me zoom back out of that. And so each one of these, it tells you a different size bullet or weight bullet and what type powder you could use. So up here it tells me it's a 90 grain jacketed bullet, and here's the powders that they've actually tested and given you some data. And so it's telling you here what your starting grain should be, what your case volume should be. If you're using their auto disc, this is what it is. If you're using a Lee dipper, you know what I'm saying, and how much feet per second. And then it's going to tell you what your maximum, that's what this is over here, never exceed. It says that's your maximum grains you can put in it. So we're shooting 124 grain copper plated round nose. And so there's a couple pages of this, but right here it says 124 grain copper plated. And so if you go to that and you look down this side, there is no tight group, right? And so, yuck, that's not good, because now I don't have any reloading data that I can pull out of this book, but I do have some interesting information that I can look for. This last column over here tells me my minimum overall length. And so it's running somewhere between 1.14 down to about 1.06, and that's important. And so let me show you kind of what I do as I start to work up a load. I keep some information on hand about what I'm trying to do. And so I have a little log, it looks like this, and some of this data is outdated just a little bit because it's been a while since I've done some reloading. We recently moved, and so anyway, I'm trying to get all this stuff back going again. But if I come down here, and what I'm looking for is a combination of 9mm out here and my 124 grain bullet. And so if I go to this line, it shows on 9/16 of 15, reloaded some 9mm mixed case. It's the second time the brass had been reloaded. And I was shooting an Extreme 124, which Extreme bullets are copper plated round nose, just like the berries are, so it's comparable. And it tells you copper plated round nose, and I use tight group as my powder, and it shows I use 4.1 grains. All right, and so I was using CCI small pistol primer, and my case overall length was 1.1, and I made 200 of them that day. Right, and so and I also keep a lot number too, just in case I start to have some issues. And so it's important to keep a reloading log like this, so that way as you're going along and you're making new bullets and everything like that, that you can keep track of what you've shot. You can kind of put a star next to the things that you think are shooting well, and you can kind of put a line through the things that you think didn't shoot very accurate at all. And some of that has to do with what pistol you're shooting, or rifle, and all that stuff like that. So anyway, this spreadsheet, I can probably make a copy of this and make it a PDF or an Excel spreadsheet and put it out there. I think I downloaded it off of one of those like Steve's loading data or something like that websites. But it's a great tool to have. Just like I said, in this situation, I don't have any loading data. And so again, like I said, I used 4.1 grains of tight group. Now on the tight group bottle, not all bottles have this. Right here on the front, let me see if I can zoom in just a little bit here so you can see that what it's saying. It tells me that for a 9mm Luger, right, it's 4.8 grains, but that's for 115 grain Spear jacketed hollow point, right? And so I'm not shooting that bullet, and so I'm shooting something heavier than that, which means that that charge needs to come down just a little bit. And so my 4.1 is right in alignment of what I'm trying to do here with tight group, right? And so good information to have. Again, like I said, you can look all that stuff up online. Ogden on their website has reloading data that you can go get. So does Alliant and every other powder that's out there. You can get a lot of reloading data that's out there online. And so the next step is we need to set up our powder measure and start trying to get that going. So in the next episode, that's what we're going to do. We're going to set up the powder measure, try to figure out how we get the right weight and tear that out. And then we're going to be able to start with a bullet seating die after that. So again, thanks for watching. Hope you're getting something out of this. For me, like I said, I had a hard time finding some of this information when I was pretty new to reloading. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and thanks for watching.